My girlfriend's mom said I couldn't afford dinner, not knowing I could buy her entire neighborhood. I was sitting in a fancy steakhouse waiting to meet my girlfriend's mom for the first time when my girlfriend turned to me and apologized in advance. She explained that her mom, Dolores, had been obsessed with her marrying up ever since her dad left them broke. Lawyers, surgeons, men with titles. Love to her was a business deal. She squeezed my hand and told me she loved me whether I was a mechanic or owned the shop. Money meant nothing to her. I thanked her, thinking about what I'd kept from her for 8 months. My grandfather left me his automotive empire, 23 dealerships, but I still worked every morning at his original shop. Fixing cars gave me something money never could. Dolores arrived late and immediately wrinkled her nose, apparently offended by the smell of motor oil that clung to me despite 3 showers. When I stood to pull out her chair, she looked me up and down, lingering on my height, and asked if all mechanics were built so small, or if the job just wore them down over time. During appetizers, she reached across the table and squeezed my bicep, frowning. She mentioned that my girlfriend's ex, Leo, had been a college athlete who still worked out every morning before court. Throughout dinner, she asked if I'd at least finished high school, while casually explaining that Leo graduated from Yale. She wondered aloud if working under cars all day affected a man's back, or other performances, then laughed like it was harmless humor. My girlfriend's face burned red. "Mom, that's enough," she said firmly. Dolores waved her off and continued, saying successful men didn't come home exhausted every night. When the check arrived, she asked if I could even afford it and handed her card to the waiter before I could respond, adding that I reminded her of her ex-husband. Months later, at my girlfriend's birthday party, things escalated beyond subtle digs. Dolores invited Leo. She literally stood him next to me and demonstrated the difference between men, pointing out his height, his soft hands from office work, while gesturing at my scarred ones. She ran her hand along his designer suit, then gestured at my department store button-down, explaining to guests that you could always tell a man's success by how he dressed. "Mom, stop it, right now," my girlfriend said. Dolores smiled and told her she'd understand when she was older and wiser. Then came the apartment. Dolores asked where I lived and loudly announced to the room that I rented a studio apartment with roommates at 28. She explained how real men had mortgages by now, how Leo owned a 3-bedroom house, how living like a college student showed a lack of ambition. She asked if I even had my own bedroom or slept on someone's couch, then turned to my girlfriend and asked if she really wanted to raise children in a cramped apartment with paper-thin walls. The 4th of July barbecue destroyed any remaining civility. Dolores grabbed sparklers out of my hands, loudly questioning whether I even knew how to light them safely. She went on about how some men weren't dad material. She asked my girlfriend if she wanted babies crying for a real daddy, while stuck with someone who jumped at firecrackers. Warned her our kids would be bullied while I stood there frozen. 3 days later, Dolores dragged me to her Lexus dealership because her car was making weird noises. She wanted to prove I couldn't diagnose it. While she complained to the service manager, an older mechanic walked by, stopped, and stared. He called my name and asked what I was doing there. Dolores rolled her eyes and muttered something about another grease monkey. The mechanic turned to the service manager. "Why didn't anyone tell me the owner was visiting?" The word owner hit Dolores like a slap. She froze mid-sentence. The service manager went pale and turned his monitor toward us. At the very top of the company directory was my face, CEO. 23 locations branching out beneath it. I watched Dolores' expression collapse, confusion, horror, devastation, as every insult she'd thrown at me replayed behind her eyes. She started stammering about respecting honest work, said she'd just been testing me. Then she called me son. Mascara running, she dropped to her knees and begged forgiveness, like she could erase months of cruelty by denying it hard enough. I told her to wait outside while I fixed her car. At our wedding a year later, Dolores sat in the back row. She left before the reception, and for the first time since I met her, she said nothing at all.